You are at a dinner party on a Saturday evening. The food is good, the conversation is easy, and then someone at the table mentions, almost casually, that they just paid off their rental property. Someone else follows, with their brokerage account crossing $400,000. A third person nods along and says they have been maxing out their retirement contributions for the last 8 years running. And you smile. You nod. You reach for your glass and say something appropriately impressed. But underneath that smile, something uncomfortable is happening. You are doing math you did not plan to do tonight. You are calculating, comparing, and the number you keep arriving at, the number representing your actual financial position at or approaching 40, does not feel like it belongs at this table. Later that night, you are lying awake. The dinner is over, but the comparison is not. The questions start arriving, one after another. Should I have bought a house 5 years ago? Why did nobody explain investing to me in my 20s? Is there actually enough time left to fix this? Am I going to be working at 72 because I did not figure this out when I was supposed to? I'm Williams. And before I give you the benchmarks and the catch-up mathematics, I need to tell you something about that dinner party first. Because the anxiety you felt sitting at that table was built on a foundation that deserves to be examined before we build anything on top of it. Half the people performing financial confidence at that table are managing a version of financial stress they would never announce in public. The rental property owner did not mention the 3 months of vacancy last year or the $18,000 roof repair that wiped out 2 years of rental income. The person maxing retirement contributions has $34,000 in credit card debt their partner does not know about. The brokerage account milestone came from an inheritance, not from decades of disciplined investing. This does not mean nobody at that table is genuinely doing well. Some of them are. But the comparison that kept you awake is a comparison between your internal reality and their external performance. And those two things are almost never the same. Now, with that established, let me show you where you actually should be at 40. And more importantly, what the mathematics of your 40s make possible if you are willing to take them seriously. The conventional benchmark most financial advisors cite is 3 times your annual salary saved for retirement by age 40. Earning $75,000 means $225,000 in retirement accounts. Earning $90,000 means $270,000. These numbers sound precise and authoritative. They are also almost completely disconnected from what American households actually have. The Federal Reserve's most recent survey of consumer finances, the most comprehensive data on household wealth available, shows that the median retirement savings for Americans aged 35 to 44 is approximately $45,000. The median, half of all Americans in that age range, have less than $45,000 saved for retirement. Not $225,000, not $270,000, $45,000. If you have $60,000 saved, you are ahead of the median. If you have $100,000 saved, you are meaningfully ahead. If you have $150,000 or more, you are in a genuinely strong position relative to your peers, regardless of what the 3 times salary rule suggests. I am not telling you this so you feel comfortable settling for the median. The median in America means retiring with barely enough to sustain ordinary life. It means Social Security becoming the primary income source for daily expenses. It means every unexpected cost in retirement carries genuine threat. The median outcome is not the goal, but the benchmarks that make you feel like a failure, the 3 times salary figures that populate financial planning articles, were designed in a different economic era and are deployed by institutions that profit from financial anxiety. Understanding the gap between what those benchmarks say and what the actual data shows is the beginning of replacing anxiety with accurate information. So here are the honest, achievable, mathematically grounded benchmarks for age 40 in today's economy. On retirement savings, the realistic and still meaningful target is 1.5 to 2 times your annual salary. Earning $70,000 means aiming for $105,000 to $140,000 in retirement accounts by 40. Earning $90,000 means $135,000 to $180,000. This puts you on a trajectory toward genuine retirement security, not the 3 times figure that assumes you had your financial life fully organized in your mid-20s, but a real and achievable target that the mathematics of your remaining working years can build into something substantial. Here's why this number matters more than it might initially appear. $120,000 invested at 40, left completely untouched with zero additional contributions, grows to approximately $780,000 by 65 at a 7% average annual return. That is the power of a 25-year compounding runway. You would not be comfortable on that alone. But add consistent contributions throughout your 40s and 50s, when your income is typically at its highest, and the trajectory from $120,000 at 40 becomes something dramatically different than the starting point suggests. On emergency savings, 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in a high-yield savings account you can access within 24 hours. For most households, this is between $12,000 and $28,000, not vacation money, not opportunity money. The specific, designated, intentionally boring fund that exists to absorb the inevitable disruptions of a real-life job loss, medical event, major home system failure without forcing you into debt. Without this buffer, every financial crisis resets your progress. With it, financial disruptions are inconveniences rather than catastrophes. This distinction, compounded across the remaining decades of your financial life, is the difference between a savings rate that builds consistently and one that keeps getting interrupted back to zero. On debt, everything above 7% interest gone entirely. Credit card balances at 22% interest are not a financial inconvenience. They are a guaranteed negative return on every dollar you are not throwing at them. The same mathematical force that makes compound interest the most powerful tool in wealth building works against you with identical energy when it is compounding on debt you carry. By 40, the only debt that belongs in a healthy financial life is a mortgage at a reasonable rate and potentially a low-interest car payment. Everything else is currently actively working against you. On income, meaningfully higher than your starting salary in real terms. Peak earning years for most professionals fall between 45 and 54. By 40, you should be approaching that peak, not still anchored near your starting salary. If your real inflation-adjusted income has not grown by at least 25% to 30% from where you started your career, your income trajectory is a problem that no savings rate can fully compensate for. Your savings capacity is a function of income. Optimizing how you save without addressing what you earn is managing the symptom rather than the source. Now, the part of this conversation that matters most if you look at those benchmarks and find yourself behind on several of them, here is the counterintuitive truth that most financial content does not tell you clearly. Catching up in your 40s is not just possible. Under specific conditions, it is actually mathematically superior to the slow, early accumulation that the people at your dinner table were performing. The reason is contribution intensity. Time is the most powerful variable in wealth building, but only when contributions are consistent and meaningful. A person who invested $150 per month from 25 to 40 and then stopped has accumulated through time. A person who starts investing $1,800 per month at 40 has eliminated the time advantage through volume. Over a 25-year runway, from 40 to 65, $1,800 per month at 7% average annual return produces approximately $1,460,000. The early starter who contributed $150 per month for 15 years and then stopped has approximately $290,000 at 40, which grows to approximately $1,500,000, and $80,000 by 65 untouched. They are comparable. And the late starter who contributes $1,800 per month, which represents a realistic savings rate for a 40-year-old earning $90,000, who has eliminated consumer debt, optimized their expenses, matches a 15-year head start through intensity alone. This is not an argument against starting early. Start as early as possible. But it is an honest argument against the fatalism that tells people who are behind at 40 that the damage is permanent. The damage is not permanent. The runway is still real. The compounding table is still generous. The lever available to you now is contribution rate rather than time. And contribution rate is something you can change immediately. If this is replacing some of the anxiety from that dinner party with something more useful, take 2 seconds and hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel, and I notice every one. Let me walk you through the catch-up sequence in the specific order that produces the best results. Because order matters. The people who try to catch up by investing aggressively, while still carrying high-interest debt and without an emergency fund, end up taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back indefinitely. The sequence eliminates that pattern. Phase 1, stop the financial bleeding before anything else. Spend 1 evening going through 3 months of bank and credit card statements. Every recurring charge, every subscription, every automatic renewal. What you find will almost certainly surprise you. The research on this is consistent. Most households are paying between $200 and $400 per month for services they either never use or would not miss. That is $2,400 to $4,800 per year, leaving your account in exchange for nothing meaningful. Cancel ruthlessly. This is not a sacrifice. This is reclaiming money that was leaving without your conscious awareness. Then look at every debt's interest rate. Any debt above 7% should be refinanced, if possible balance transfers for credit card debt, refinancing for high-rate car loans. Reducing a $28,000 car loan from 9.4% to 4.1% saves $147 per month without touching your car or your lifestyle. The optimization phase alone, before you change a single spending habit, typically frees $400 to $700 per month in most households. Phase 2, eliminate high-interest debt with single-minded focus. Every free dollar from phase 1 goes here, not to invest, not to savings beyond a minimal $2,000 emergency buffer, directly to the highest interest debt first, the mathematical approach that eliminates the most total interest cost. A credit card balance at 22% interest is a guaranteed 22% negative return on every dollar, not attacking it. No index fund can reliably beat that guaranteed loss. Paying off high-interest debt is the highest certainty investment available to you. This phase typically takes 6 to 18 months depending on starting balance. It feels slow. It requires declining to invest while watching market returns discussed at every dinner party you attend. Do it anyway. The person who emerges from this phase with 0 consumer debt and $400 to $700 in reclaimed monthly cash flow, plus the money previously going to debt minimums, is now directing $1,000 to $1,500 per month toward wealth building instead. That person's trajectory changes completely. Phase 3, build the emergency foundation. Before accelerating investment contributions, build the emergency fund for 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. 4 months of focused saving typically covers this. This step feels like a delay. It is actually the structural change that makes everything that follows sustainable. Without it, the next unexpected expense, and there will be a next unexpected expense, sends you back to phase 1. With it, life's disruptions land on solid ground, and the investment trajectory continues uninterrupted. Phase 4, invest with the urgency the timeline demands. This is where the mathematics of your 40s become genuinely exciting. You now have eliminated debt, established a buffer, reclaimed $1,000 to $1,500 per month in cash flow, and you are directing it toward retirement accounts with a 25-year runway. Start by capturing the full employer match on your 401k immediately. This is a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on the matched portion, and there is no investment available anywhere that competes with it. Then, increase your contribution rate by 1 to 2 percentage points every 6 months. Gradual escalation allows your lifestyle to adjust without shock. Within 2 to 3 years, most people reach 15 to 20% savings rates through this method without ever experiencing a dramatic reduction in daily quality of life. Invest in low-cost, diversified index funds, not individual stocks, not themed ETFs built around current trends. Broad market index funds with expense ratios below 0.1% that track the market's total return over time. The investment decision that most separates comfortable retirees from struggling ones is not which stocks they picked. It is whether they stayed in the market consistently through every downturn, and broad index funds make that decision structurally easier because there is no individual company failure to rationalize selling through. Phase 5, attack income with the same intensity you attack debt. Savings rate operates on income. Doubling your savings rate on a stagnant income produces less than maintaining a consistent savings rate on a growing income. Your 40s are the last window for meaningful income acceleration before hiring discrimination begins. Narrowing options in the early 50s. Specialization becoming genuinely superior at one specific, valuable function, rather than broadly competent across many, is the highest leverage career investment available at this stage. A marketable specialization developed over 2 to 3 years frequently produces income increases of $20,000 to $40,000 annually. Directed entirely toward investment rather than lifestyle expansion, that increase transforms a catch-up plan into something that overtakes the early starters who coasted. Here's your action plan. Not in theory. In the next 48 hours. If you carry high-interest consumer debt, this week, open a balance transfer card with a 0% introductory rate and consolidate your highest rate balances onto it. This immediately stops the interest compounding against you and creates a runway to eliminate principal. Then build a written payoff schedule, specific monthly amount, specific payoff date, and automate the payment. If you have no debt but no emergency fund, this week, open a high-yield savings account separate from your checking account and set up an automatic transfer of $300 per paycheck. Automate it before this conversation ends. The money moves without requiring a decision every 2 weeks, which is the only saving system that survives real life. If you have the emergency fund but are not maximizing your employer match, log into your 401k portal today and increase your contribution to at least the match threshold. If your employer matches 6% of salary, you contribute at least 6% of salary. Leaving any portion of the match on the table is declining a raise your employer has already offered you. If you are contributing consistently, but have not examined your investment allocation in over a year, check what your contributions are actually invested in. If any meaningful portion sits in a stable value fund, a money market account, or a target date fund more conservative than your age, warrants move it into a broad market index fund and set your future contributions to match. That dinner party is going to keep happening. The rental property stories and the portfolio milestones and the retirement account achievements are going to keep circulating through your social world as long as your social world includes adults who have figured out that financial performance is a form of status. That is not changing. What can change is what you bring to the table underneath the smile. Not the performance, the actual position, the actual trajectory, the actual contribution rate and debt load and investment allocation that determine whether the anxiety you felt that Saturday night becomes a memory of when things changed or a feeling that follows you to the next dinner and the one after. The mathematics of your 40s are not against you. The 25-year runway from 40 to 65 is still one of the most powerful compounding windows available. The peak earning years are ahead of you. The consumer debt that absorbed the cash flow of your 30s can be eliminated in months, not years, releasing capital that was never actually gone, just misdirected. The person who walks out of their 40s with $400,000 saved and zero consumer debt did not do something extraordinary. They did something sequential. They stopped the bleeding. They eliminated the debt. They built the foundation. They invested consistently at a rate the math required. They attacked income with the same intention. None of that requires a dinner party story. It just requires starting before 48 hours from right now have passed. I'm Williams. The benchmarks are the starting line. What you do after this is the race. If these conversations are giving you something real, consider subscribing. I make videos like this every single week, and I try to make every one worth more than the time it takes to watch. I will see you in the next one.